welcome to the Real Biz Life Chronicles, where we discuss all things business, branding, and life. I'm your host, Tracy Fryer. Remember, if you do enjoy this episode, we ask that you please like and subscribe to our channel below. My guest today is Lois Andrijich from Life at Work. Lois is passionate about improving life at work for employees and working closely with managers and business leaders to support this. Lois, welcome.
Thank you. Nice to see you.
You too. Thanks for joining us. Lois, I thought what might be best is if you could give us a brief insight into how you landed up in the HR space.
Sure. Yes, absolutely. So I've been in HR for a long time. It's always been my career as such. I started at uni studying psychology. I did an undergraduate and an honours in psychology. I knew that I wanted to work with people, but I wasn't really sure that was the field for me. So started working in a business and had an interest in HR. I was actually doing a bit of a mixed role of accounts payable and all kinds of, junior entry-level things, and spoke to the HR manager there and said, I'm kind of interested in HR. Tell me a little bit about what do you like about it? What do you not like about it? And she was really great. She stepped me through, what she enjoyed about her role. And from there, I decided I was going to try and work in the field, and I started a master's in HR management. And I was really lucky that particular business that I was working in created a role for me. So made me a HR assistant role, which was amazing, and gave me my first opportunity, into the area, into the field. And, my journey kind of started from there. I was pretty fortunate. I worked in businesses where there was a lot of opportunity for promotion and for growth. So I moved into executive roles fairly young, which was really lucky to do. I had really amazing managers above me that supported that transition and were really passionate about, women progressing through organizations. So I was in the exec space for about 5 years and then started the business. I decided I needed to do something a bit different and, started the business in 2020.
Oh, fantastic. I also actually started in 2020. It must have been a year for it.
I think we got to that point and we're thinking, surely there are different ways of living our lives and surely there are different ways of doing business. And I'm sure, I'm not alone. You had the same experience. I'm sure so many people took that point as an opportunity to reset and think a little bit differently, which is great.
Yeah, definitely. And do you feel it's because of COVID or?
Yeah, I think, I'd been in that, for me, I'd been in the HR space for so long and been in executive spaces for, quite a number of years there. And I like change and variety. I like a bit of structure, but I also like change and variety. And for me, when you've done a career for a long time, you're looking for different ways of doing things. And when you're in HR, you get funny little problems, right? But every organization, it's really interesting things. I could tell you some stories.
I'm going to dive into it.
Yeah, absolutely. But every organization, you do get very similar things that pop up. So it's rare that you come across things after you've been in HR for a while that are very, very, different or strange or odd, little nuances, but, it's much and much. So running the business has been a pivot and a shift out of that, I guess, HR corporate career, whether you were within a business, into something kind of different, which has been interesting and lots of learning and growth with that, which is what we want.
And Lois, growing up, was there any, did you have any entrepreneurial kind of traits? Or I know, like Rupin was on and he said he created fish tanks and I sold lollipops. Did you have anything like that growing up?
I didn't, which is really interesting. I didn't. And I was always, my parents were in, jobs for 25 years. They were very stable in their careers. And I didn't really have people around me that were doing that. But when I was in, progressing into leadership roles, I had a coach, and I had a number of coaches over the years, which I think is really valuable and very important to do. And one of my coaches was very invested and supportive of diversifying your income stream. So she's saying, don't put all your eggs in one basket. Look at different ways to make money. Learn to sell. That was a really big thing that she was, trying to educate me on at the time is learn to sell. And it's, for me in the business, you think, oh gosh, it's going to be really hard to sell your services, but it's actually not, because you're selling something that's really valuable and, you're you fall into a level of comfort with it. But I started doing sort of little bits and pieces. So, just learning to have little businesses on the side. But I wasn't young when I was doing that. I was, definitely kind of embedded within a career. So, yeah.
Yeah. It's I always like to ask, it's really interesting how people end up having their own business. Some people are haphazard. So would you say that this mentor had quite a profound impact on you, and that's kind of what opened your mind to it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's interesting, looking back at, some of the profiling that I've done over the years, and there was certainly signs in there around, you'd be interested in working for yourself, you would be good at working for yourself, those types of things. So certainly I used to aspire to be in a CEO role, and I used to think that that's where I would land. And then I realized then that even in a CEO role, you still have a board of directors, you still have, people that are overseeing you, and there are limitations around what you can do. So the business path was good. There's obviously a lot of freedom in doing your own thing. So.
And Lois, what's been, if we are allowed to discuss, you don't have to mention any names, what has been some of the craziest stories, I guess, you've come across in terms of business owners and their employees?
Yeah, sure. Look, it's more about staff more than anything. I think you get people in businesses that do really interesting things, and sometimes really bad things. You can have staff that cause they do things that are negligent and create damage to clients or to people. You get people that can be quite nasty, in their relationships with others. People that do the wrong thing, they have relationships within the organization, within their reporting structures, which is not great. So lots of kind of things that pop up from time to time. And then business owners, every business owner and every leader in an organization is on a journey, and there are things that they need to learn. And nobody's perfect. Everybody's got to start somewhere. And when you're dealing with people, often they're in different parts of their journey, and you've just kind of got to link into where they're at and recognize that and work with them on that level. And I think staff forget that, actually. I think they expect leaders to be well-rounded and to know everything and to make all of the right decisions, but they forget sometimes that they're human too. So, it's important, I think, for staff to remember that.
Yeah, I can say from being an employee to being a business owner, it's such a dramatic shift. I think when you're an employee, you don't actually realize half the stuff that actually goes on. So it's very, very true what you said. Unless you've been a business owner, I don't think you actually ever have insight into that space of being a business owner.
Right. That's right. Something that happens as well, and it's, again, you've got to learn these skills, but I often find that business owners want a HR professional to come in and fix problems for them. So, for example, they have a problem staff member, and that's often, a reason why we can come in to help, and they don't know how to deal with a problem staff member. And primarily that's because they don't know how to have a difficult conversation, because they've never been taught how to do it. They've never learnt it. And sometimes they want HR to come in and just to have the difficult conversation for them. But it actually doesn't really work like that. And it's not how you learn to be an effective leader. Sometimes you've got to do the really tough stuff and have the really tough conversations. And it's good for you and it's good for your people. And you can't necessarily expect someone else to come in and do that for you. You need to take ownership of that. So it's hard. It's really hard. But you've got to try and practice, and I think that's key. But something that we see a lot.
And Lois, what I'm wondering is, how do you know where to meet a business owner at? I guess it's a bit like a mentor, a business advisor. Do you kind of assess where someone's at and then go from there, or?
Yeah, you can see where they're at. I think you can get a pretty good picture. And I'll give you an example. If we've got, for example, a small business that needs to do a restructure, and as part of that restructure, there might be some redundancies. That can be really challenging for business owners. They know that strategically that's the right decision for them, but they've obviously got a relationship with their people and they don't want to upset people, and it's scary to have those conversations. So if we come into a business and we recognize that particular leader knows they need to do the restructure, knows they need to cull some roles as part of that, but has never had that conversation, then we will meet them at that point where we will encourage them to lead the conversation, give them scripts to run the conversation, practice with them, but then be there as well. So if that manager kind of falters in terms of what they're saying or loses their words, then that's okay. We're there and we just pick up and we carry on with the conversation for them. So it's good because it's educational. They learn how to run the process. They take accountability and ownership in trying the process. But if they lose the words and they can't finish what they need to say or they need some help, then we're there. So it's kind of, meeting them at the point where they're at. If they're really established and they know exactly what they're doing, fantastic. We're just there to be, a party in the conversation. But yeah, everyone's different.
Yeah, 100%. And Lois, for our listeners, what is HR and how can an HR business help a business owner or help employees and vice versa?
It's a great question because everyone has different perceptions of HR, and
yes.
They really do. Yeah, it's interesting when I talk to people. So some people think that we're just there to do recruitment. Some people think that we're just there to do disciplinary stuff. Some people think, that we really just are there to create challenges for people. Some people really dislike HR professionals, which was always very interesting.
It's a bit like branding.
Yeah, it's really like being a lawyer, or there's all kind of people have a perception around different professions. HR is there to help, right? So it's there to help your people and there to help your managers. And when we look at the range of stuff that we do across the board, it's anything really that relates to your people. So foundationally, we do things like policies and procedures. We check contracts and make sure that the contracts are protecting the organisation, clear. We do wage checks, so we make sure that our people within businesses are not being underpaid as per the modern awards that relate to them. Lots of kind of just foundational, basic, almost compliance sort of stuff that happens there. Moving on from there, you get into things that are more about culture and engagement, making sure that you've got a good strategy for your business or people strategy. You've got things in place to help retain and engage your staff. So those kind of more higher level things that are less about, compliance and less about the foundational stuff and more about how you're creating a really great culture for your staff. So we do end to end. Sometimes businesses kind of specialize at one end or the other. We do everything. But, there's obviously a lot of joy in being able to do the culture and engagement stuff because you can create really great impact there. But the foundational stuff is very important as well, because if you don't get that right, then you end up with problems. So,
yes. And it's so important, the culture at a workplace, because if you think, majority of humans spend their life at work pretty much. You're there, Monday to Friday, some people even on the weekends. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, if that cultural aspect is missing, it's really hard for people to want to show up for work and stay in that role.
Yeah, it is. And that's, why my business is called Life at Work. I have a real passion for making life at work better. And, I've really seen the impact of bad leadership, bad culture on people. And, most people come to work and, they want to do the right thing. They want to just come in and do a good job. Most people are not coming to work to try to do a bad job, and your leaders have such an impact on people. So, it's very important, I think, for leaders to be, honing their leadership skills, thinking about how they like to lead their people, thinking about the type of culture that they want to create within the business. And sometimes organizations will say, HR is responsible for culture. Well, HR can't be responsible for culture. It has a part to play. Yeah. Every single person within the business is responsible for culture, whether it is, your most junior person in the organization or whether it's a CEO. Everybody has a part to play. Some have more influence than others, but your culture of your organization is so nuanced, and there's so many things that impact that. But certainly everyone's got a part to play, and your leaders and your CEO have a huge part to play in that as well. So yeah.
And at what stage would you say someone should engage someone like yourself, Lois? Is there a certain, is it when you start getting your team starts expanding, or because let's face it, a lot of business owners, our journey just happens and we're still trying to learn how to lead ourselves, and then suddenly we're leading 8 people and we're like, oh my goodness. So what stage would you say is a good time to engage HR services?
Look, in my opinion, as early as possible is good, because what happens is sometimes we will engage with a business that has, say 30 staff, and they've got contracts in place that are not particularly well constructed. They've been pulled off the internet, and someone's created them, and then we're unraveling, right? It happens, right? And like you said, we're in business, right? You're just figuring things out along the way. You don't really know.
Totally.
You learn. So, we do a lot of unraveling. So the earlier, the better. So sometimes we have startups, so they have no staff at all, but they know they're going to engage staff and they want to get things right from the beginning. That's great. Perfect. But typically what I would say is most businesses get to a point, particularly business owners, where they realize they can't do everything. So, often they're trying to do all the finance stuff. They're doing their own payroll. They're doing all of their HR, people management, and they get to a point where they go through this journey and they recognize that actually my time might be best spent doing these things that I'm really, really good at, whether it's business development or, whatever their skill is, that made their business successful. And then they're ready to kind of outsource the stuff that perhaps takes up a lot of the time. They're not really great at. They're not sure if they're doing it well. That's the point. That's really the point, typically, where you've come to that realization. It's time, engage people. It's great. And your life will be different. It makes such a big difference to have experts around you that
it does.
Take on things, and we know it from having really great accountants or really great bookkeepers. Makes your life so much easier than trying to figure it out on your own.
100%. And do you find that most business owners, or some business owners, by the time they reach you, they're kind of in that burnt out, frazzled, headless chicken mode, where they're just like, I know for me, sometimes I've sort of reached the end of my tether with something and I'm like, right, I have to let it go. I have to trust that someone can do it better than me, or, just as good. Because otherwise you can't split yourself in 24 different places at one time. Tried, failed.
Yeah, absolutely, you can't, and it's actually not healthy, and I think we've all had that journey. My first year I would have worked 7 days a week, thinking you can just do everything, until I finally thought, no, if I'm going to do this long term, you need to hire some staff, and you actually need to control the workload and do some of that stuff. But yes, I totally agree. I think that a pivotal thing that happens, or a pivotal point that happens for us with HR being engaged within a business, is often they've had a learning experience. So for example, they've had a poor performer that they've struggled to manage, or they have terminated a person and ended up in the Fair Work Commission trying to manage that process themselves. Often it's the tricky learning experience where they go, I don't want to do that again, and I want to learn from that next time. And that's often the point where they'll engage. It's obviously ideal if they don't have to go through that experience. So if you can see that you've got a problem person, right, and you really need to deal with a problem, but you don't really know how to do it well, engage someone early, because they will step you through the process. They'll reduce a lot of the angst and stress for you, and will hopefully help keep it out of the commission and out of some of those kind of angsty spaces where we don't want to be.
Yeah. And Lois, I also love how calm you always are. You always seem very present. I guess with managing some of those sort of tricky situations, is there any practices that you implement in your daily routine, or do you kind of, to maintain that sort of that presence and just calmness that you have?
I think you need good boundaries, and again, we learn, right? I did lots of work in the first year, and I think you need to create some good boundaries around you can't work 24/7. You need time for you. You need to have time for your relationships and your friendships and exercise. And, you need to, so important. You need to make time for all of that. Because I think if you don't, you're not bringing your best self to work. But in terms of presence too, I think it's all about those little things that make a difference. So, if I'm sitting at a meeting, you're not going to be sitting on your phone texting, etc. It's down, like it's out of the way.
I can't stand it when people do that. It's so rude.
Yeah, it's so rude. But people just do it without even thinking. They're busy. Same as taking a phone call if you're in the middle of a conversation, or sitting on your laptop trying to reply to emails. You can't be present. So I think if you have dedicated time to something, you need to be there. And if you don't have the time, if someone's popped at your door and they're asking you questions, and if you have something else that's more urgent, then it's about, I'd love to talk to you about this, can we make a time later today? So you can give your dedicated time and attention. I think all of the little things like that make a big difference.
It's I find I've just become
that's
sorry, Lois, what was that?
not stressing. I think that's the other thing too. It is, at the end of the day, it's literally just work, right?
Yeah,
In
literally.
most circumstances, no one's going to die. Unless you're in a really kind of particular industry, no one's going to, no one's dying. Things are manageable. It is just work.
Yes. Yeah, that's something I've had to really like. I think it's stress management is a skill that you need to learn because, if you're very passionate and driven and you want to make things work, you sometimes forget that it is just one part of your life and it's not the be all and end all. Although, you want to strive for goals and that sort of thing, it's really a skill set that I've had to learn and just to kind of moderate that stress. Otherwise, it just consumes you.
Absolutely. Totally agree. And I think we can be too driven for our own good sometimes. And if you don't stop and reflect sometimes around the progress that you've made, and I'm guilty of it, I do it all the time, but I'm very forward focused. So if you're not thinking about celebrating what you've actually achieved and sitting and reflecting on that, I don't think that's healthy either. But again, it's I'm still learning that. It's a skill that I think takes time.
I agree completely. And Lois, is there one area in particular that you find business owners struggle with in terms of their HR or their employees?
Yes, I think it is that difficult conversation piece, So most people can make practical decisions around the types of roles that they need, or, they understand the compliance bit around, well, I need to know that my contracts are robust, or I need to make sure that I'm paying people correctly. But the challenging conversations, the hard conversations, that's the bit that I think people really struggle with. And actually not even just, business owners, that can happen with staff as well. Sometimes they have talking to each other. But I think as a leader, you really need to own that and to learn that, and to know that it's okay to be a bit vulnerable in the process too. To say I want to approach this conversation with you in the best way, and it's a really challenging conversation for me to have with you, but I feel like it's appropriate that we do have this conversation. And I think being open. The best thing for staff is not having surprises. So, if your manager will be upfront with you, then you're not going to go to work worrying about what if I make a mistake with this thing, or what if my manager's not happy with my performance and they haven't told me. If you have a manager that's really upfront and really open and takes questions and gives feedback freely, that creates a lot of reassurance, I think, for staff, and helps them to really succeed and to perform at their best. So, which is what you want, right? Every business wants to be performing, to their best. Yeah. And, I think another thing too is, recognizing what people's strengths are and letting people
so important.
Strengths. And I'll always encourage businesses to rearrange, structures and things like that. If they have staff where they think this person would be really, really good at this particular role and I have a need for that particular role, letting kind of shine is good. So not being afraid of, creating change and putting people in their best places, I think is really good to do. Good for your business, good for your people.
Yeah. And do you find you get like pushback sometimes? So you might suggest to a manager or business owner, look, I think you should do X, Y, Z. Do they ever push back sometimes? And how do you handle that as well?
Yeah, of course. I'll usually do a little preemptive conversation right in the beginning of an engagement with an employer or with a business, and say, I'm here to help you get the best outcome. And if I have a particular approach that I think that you should take, I will tell you. And so for example, just say they know they need to move towards termination with a person. I will help them get the best outcome there that protects the business and it's the right thing for the employee, and that there's a good balance there. But I'll always say to the business owner that if you disagree, that's okay. It's your business.
Right.
Do whatever you want. But I'm here to give you the advice that I think will create the best outcome and the lowest risk for you. If you want to do something different, completely fine. I'll help you with that. But then, so what I like about that approach is that there's nothing that's really restrictive then for them. So they know that you've got their best interests at heart. If they disagree with you, they can make whatever decisions they like. And often, honestly, they'll learn from that. So if someone says, if I determination. Well, this person's been around for a long time. You need to give them a bit of an opportunity to improve and to really demonstrate that. But they enact determination really quickly and end up in the commission. They learn from that, right? So,
of course.
sometimes they come back and, I should listen to you. That's fine. That's all good. It's a journey. We learn. So, yes, you can push back, but I never, I'm fine. It's especially with business owners, it's their business.
Yes.
Yeah. It's their journey.
It sounds like you have to be really careful on how you frame things. I mean, like anything in life, the words that you use and how you kind of approach a certain topic.
Yes, you do. And I think too, not being too wedded to the outcome. For me, if someone disagrees with me, well, it's their business, it's their risk, right? So it actually doesn't impact me at the end of the day. So I'm not kind of dogmatic in how I approach things. So, I'll give someone the best, way forward. But if that's not what they want to do, that's okay. It has zero impact on me, right? Zero, really, at the end of the day, apart from potentially more work. Because a problem, but we deal with it. It's fine. So there's no point in being dogmatic about these things, I think.
And Lois, I saw an article that you were part of in the New Daily, and I think that was while you were you have your own business, Life at Work, wage theft. Do you want to walk us through what exactly that is? I read a bit about the article and I was like, wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
Quite taken aback.
It's really interesting. It's and it sounds so dramatic, doesn't it? Wage theft.
It does.
It does. And it's
I quoted from the article.
Yeah, absolutely. But it's a very media kind of word for it. But really, it's very, very easy to underpay somebody if you're not careful. And that is what wage theft is at the end of the day, is you're not paying someone the entitlements that they are due under their relevant award. So, and often it's not even as challenging as, okay, well, I've read the award and I've figured out the base rate of pay that I need to be paying them and I'm paying them that base rate of pay. There are often little things that people miss within awards that are really easy. So leave loading is really commonly missed. It's in a lot of awards still. So people miss that. They miss allowances and penalties. And all of that kind of over time creates an underpayment. And, if someone wants to lodge an underpayment claim, they can go back 6 years, which is, we've dealt with, it's long. We've dealt with underpayment claims, And when you're having to look through all the kind of the analysis and the back pay, it's a lot of work because you're trawling through 6 years of history, and you're also through 6 years of what the awards were paying, because they go usually every July, there's an increase typically. So, it's a lot of work, but very, very easy. And things get, dramatized sometimes. You'll see in the paper, people have been underpaid because of, some many millions of dollars, but it can be simple as one allowance was missed over a huge group of staff.
Oh, got it.
Yeah. Or, there's an award interpreter. Good payroll systems will have an award interpreter built into them. So basically, the rosters will kind of feed in, and any shifts it would interpret and figure out what the penalties will be. But if there's a glitch and something's not up to date, or there's a problem with the software, or something hasn't been done properly, or they've been allocated the wrong level in the award, level 2, not a level 3, very easy to do that. They create back pay issues that can go on for years and years and years until they're identified. It's a big area that people are focusing on, and I see a lot of businesses do good work in checking and identifying and then self-reporting. So a lot of the articles you read, the organisations identified it and they've self-reported.
Yeah, which is good. And I guess part of the strategy, part of your strategy, should I say, Lois, working with your clients, you sort of guide them like, so and so do you have like a structure that you follow? And they've got 10 employees, like this person needs to be, every year this needs to be reviewed. Do you sort of guide them on that journey?
Yeah, we have a little kind of almost like a cheat sheet that we use when we've got a particular year, which is really handy. So, it talks about if you're a new business, these are the things you want to be doing, right? So you want to get good, robust contracts of employment. You want to think about your policy and procedure suites. You want to look at your work health safety, just the basic stuff. So we'll have a little set of things that should be done. And then we go into, as you're increasing your business size, as you're becoming more established, these are the things You can get that on our website. Actually, it's just a free download. So if you want to, it's just on there under our resources guide. So if you want to think about that, those are some of the things. Sorry, that
is that your fur baby? Oh, good. Mine are outside because I always have to add their 5 cents. So
yes, absolutely. Yeah. Well, you obviously want to do so. Yes, but absolutely. So, but that's what we do. And there are certain things that every year you should be checking your wages. That's really important. So checking wages against the bond awards and making sure that you're paying enough, because that becomes your proof for demonstrating if you're ever asked, if you've ever got a wage query. That becomes your proof. So that's something that should be done regularly. I'd be checking contracts probably every 2 years or so as well. So, you a professional look over them. Sometimes clauses change and shift, and you need to, make sure that they're up to date. We had a change last year where a lot of contracts will have a phrase in there around you need to keep your pay confidential, and pay secrecy is no longer allowed. So therefore, you should be taking that out of your contracts. You don't need to redo it. Contract, the clause itself gets struck out because it's no longer allowed, but new contracts just shouldn't have them going forward. So little things change, and I think it's important to check those things every couple of years and make sure that your contracts and your paperwork and those types of things are up to date.
Great. So we'll pop that link in the show notes as well. Did you say that was on your resources page, Lois?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. And do you have a certain, industry that you prefer to work with? I mean, I guess a bit like graphic design and branding, you can sort of help across the board. Is there a particular industry that you work with?
No, that's been the best. That's been actually the best bit, I think, for me about running the business. My background, when you're working in one business, that's all you're working with, right? So, my original corporate career was in, aged care, retirement living, disability services, those types of things.
I agree.
Yes, I agree. So that's been the beauty of it, is I've been able to work with all different businesses. So, sporting organizations and jewelers and pediatric care groups and all kinds of tech, all kinds of very interesting businesses. And I've loved that from a growth perspective, is I've been able to learn so much about so many different industries, because HR.
I can imagine.
Your little nuances. There's 121 modern awards in the national system, and then there's a state-based system too. So there's nuances in terms of awards, but they're all written the same. So it's very interesting.
And it must be. It's really great to work with someone like yourself, so you can have a better understanding. Again, as a business owner, there's so many things we have to think about, and there's so many different facets that we need to be across the board all the time. So it's really great that you offer that insight.
Yeah, it's good. It's handy, I think, and just useful to have that external perspective.
Yes. Now I have to ask, what kind of dogs do you have?
I've got mini dachshunds, and they love it when I work from home, but I just want to be on the
It's so cute.
They're pretty vocal. They're pretty vocal dogs, but they're good fun. They're 12. They're getting old. But,
and what's their names?
Lily and Baxter.
Oh, cute. Yeah. I've got my 3 chihuahuas outside because, again, they love to add their 5 cents. So
yeah, absolutely. Mine would not sit outside quietly. They would be out barking at the neighborhood. So
yes. Yeah, mine loves to bark at the birds. I mean, they bark at the crows, but the crows are like twice their size. I'm like, that thing will take you away.
Absolutely. They don't care at all. They're brave.
Yeah. Talking of which, Lois, what's the bravest thing you've ever done across your career?
Bravest thing. I moved to South Australia. That's probably the bravest thing I did. I'm from Perth. I've lived in Perth for most of my life, and I had an opportunity come up in SA to take an executive role there for a big disability services provider, and my husband and I had just bought a new home here, and it was just terrible timing, but a great opportunity, So I shifted and, did back and forth. So I was away for 2 weeks. I'd come back every second weekend. Then my hubby would come and do a week work from home, right? So it was a big decision and a big change to make. And
huge.
Your entire life. But it was amazing. I think your whole life can change in such a positive way when you're learning somewhere new. Making friends as an adult in a new state is a whole another experience. You're used to your friendship groups, right? You would get this having moved to
Yes, completely. I didn't go to 4 times, so I know all about that. Yeah.
absolutely, right? It's a big job. And I mean, there's beauty in it too, because you can choose friends, which is great. But, you have such comfort, I think, in your normal, regular friendship groups. And for me, such comfort having, my husband with me and whatever, but going somewhere new and doing it kind of on your own.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So that was great, but it was 100% worth it. And I think that, travel and the ability to go and work in different places is worth doing if you can ever.
Yes, I agree.
Do it 100%. Because your personal growth, I watched my self grow during that time, and it was exponential in terms of growth and thinking and career and, I guess your perspectives about the world. Definitely.
Yes.
It's pivotal. So it was amazing. It was great. So I was there for 2 years and got a bit stuck there during COVID, and
So you started there before COVID, were you?
I was really lucky. My hubby moved in February 2020. He came over, and then just after he moved, everything obviously locked down and we were stuck. So, WA was pretty strict with the old borders, but we were stuck there for quite a while, and we weren't quite sure when we would ever get back. We knew it would happen eventually, but you're starting to miss things, in WA. So, but we managed to get back. The borders opened on Christmas Day, and
yes, I remember. Thank goodness.
Yeah, we were that plane coming back in, and we flew in on that day, and then headed back to SA and packed up fairly quickly and came back in the January, because we weren't sure if the borders would close again, and they were obviously times when they closed after that, but we didn't want to be sort of stuck anymore. As much as South is beautiful and I loved living there, the inability to travel and to get home when you need to get home was true. So, but that's
so as you pretty much got back and then started life at work, did you?
Yeah, I actually started doing it while I was there. So during that kind of COVID year, I was like, I need to do something different. So I started it. And I was pretty lucky. I landed a big contract with the Department for Education over there. I was doing their induction onboarding process. They didn't have a very good one, and they had 34,000 staff, so so I was lucky. So that actually just took up the bulk of my time while I was there. So I didn't really have to work with, building of client base. And then when I came back to WA in the January, then I started to grow the client base here. So again, that takes time, and, you lots of conversations and lots of building, but I'm lucky that I, kind of landed some good clients early and, built it from there.
And Lois, when you did decide to move to South Australia, was there any kind of, I guess, signs or feelings? I think so many of us, when we're trying to make a big decision, because we're in a comfort zone, we kind of, restrict ourselves from doing it. Was there anything that kind of just, made you think, oh my gosh, this is it, I have to go?
It just felt right. And I think that was the thing for me, despite the fact that we just bought a new house, despite the fact that I had a really great job here and I had a boss that I really loved working for.
Yes.
It just felt right. So I think for me, it was trusting my gut. And I actually never really doubted it, actually, which was interesting. I just kind of went, that's something I really, if I don't do that, I'll regret it. So it was something that I felt that I really needed to do. So for me, and again, it's interesting because sometimes I think you set out with particular intentions and what you want to achieve. That wasn't really the case with that. It just kind of landed for me, and I didn't have to apply for it or do anything. It just was given to me. So it's like, well, here's your little gift. And you're a fool not to take it. So it just felt right. I never questioned it, and it was right. It was the right thing to do.
And you were saying as well, it opened your eyes in terms of like you had a big perspective shift. What else did you notice from that journey?
Yeah, I think you learn what you already know. And I think that any kind of job change, whether you're moving into, starting your own business, because that again solidifies that for you. But it's certainly, I guess embedded for me how much I knew and that I was good at what I did. And, you're getting into that space. And that, for me, I've always been very proud of my leadership skills. And it was, for me, I was managing a really big team. I had 330 staff in that team. And, Yeah, which was great, and I love to lead. I think it's really it's a pleasure and a gift. So
Yes.
yeah, just let me really kind of hone that and to feel like I am good at this, and so I think solidifying your knowledge is a good thing, and sometimes just to do things that like you said, they can be outside of your comfort zone, but to actually get into them and do them, and to know actually, well, I can do that really well now, and I've done that now. So then it kind of just
Yes.
lets you up for the next time. So every time you make a step, and if you never try, you'll never know. And if you try and
So,
fail, then
so
you try.
true.
Yeah, but I think if
Very
yeah,
true.
just sometimes you just got to take the leap, and you've just got to do it. And if you fail, then the worst thing that happens is, well, you just get a new job, or you
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like nothing terrible. No one's going to die. Like it's just it's not
Yeah.
something going to happen. So
So,
it's worth
yeah,
it's worth.
it's a bit like nothing ventured, nothing gained. I know when I'm trying to push myself out of my comfort zone, a bit like my podcasting.
Yeah,
And like
absolutely.
I can't overthink it. Like I just have to do it. And yes, I'm going to stuff up and mess up an intro or whatever the case may be. But I just started reading or listening to, should I say, Mel Robbins' 5 Second Rule book. I don't know if you've read it. So
Mel
good.
Robbins. I haven't read that book, but she's
Oh,
amazing.
she's a legend. So amazing. It pretty much boils down to you count down from five, so 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and before it could be you've set your alarm for 5 a.m. when you want to get up. Before you start negotiating with yourself why you shouldn't do it, you pretty much just get up and go.
Just get out.
And so I've been
Yes,
trying the last couple of days to do this, and it actually works because even if you're having like perhaps a negative thought or you're thinking about eating that chocolate bar you shouldn't,
yeah,
you just like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It kind of just snaps you out of this frame of mind into something else. It's really powerful.
that's right. Yeah, and why do we overthink things so much? I don't even know. And
Oh,
I sometimes I think that's women too. I think sometimes
I
we
think
we can be
so. We're good at
out of
that.
it. Yeah, and for no reason, right? So
Yeah,
yeah, we should just try things. You try, fail, whatever. You give things a go. I'm with you. Yeah, don't overthink the getting up in the morning. Just get up. You'll never regret going to
totally.
the gym, or you'll never regret getting up early to do something that you planned to do and wanted to do. You regret not doing it.
No, yes, definitely. And I think guys are a lot more chilled in that respect. They're just like, sometimes I'll say to Don about something, he's like, Mum, I'm just like, nah, go do it. And I'm like, oh, that's actually a good point.
It's so
Why am
true.
I overthinking it? Just go and do it.
You look at that, all that the research that talks about, when men and women apply for jobs, and women won't apply for it unless they can do 9 out of 10 of the selection criteria. But men,
Yes.
50%, they'll probably give it a whirl. And yeah, and it's true, right? And I
Yes, I've
listened
read
to it.
about that.
Yeah, it's true, and we do it. And I listened many years ago. I did a executive like a leadership program. It's called Glam. Actually, Great Leaders Are Made. Avril Henry runs it,
Oh, cool.
and we had a CEO come in, very young CEO, and she had been in a business, working within the business, and the CEO role came up, and she was like, well, should I apply for it or should I not apply for it? And she knew she was young, and she knew there'd be other contenders. But her saying then was, well, I might as well throw my hat in the ring, right? And so you throw your hat in the ring. The worst thing that happens for her, well, there were a couple of scenarios. The worst thing that happened for her was that she got the CEO gig, didn't do very well at it, lost the job. She'll get a new job. She could get the job and do really, really well at it, or she could apply and just not get the job at all. So I think, when we're going through things, we should just give it a go. And why not? Why overthink it? If you don't know things, you learn things. It's like any, if you don't know the 5 out of the 10 selection things in the selection criteria, you learn them. That's what Google's for.
You definitely do. Google is great, especially for learning how to podcast. It's fantastic.
Yeah, that's right. It's
Highly
Google.
recommend.
That's right. Tap into your networks. There's always ways. And how else do we learn new skills, right? You only learn them by, researching and doing. So yeah, I think we need to try more. We need to try more, and not be too scared to try.
Definitely. Another thing I've noticed, and again, not trying to separate men from women or any of that conversation, but I think actually both in general, people really struggle with praise. Like, you go for your goals, you've got this business, you're trying to drive it, and then you get there and you can't take the praise. Or I've seen it, it's fascinating. Like I really noticed it, or even myself, I struggle with it as well. There's a funny gif with that dog that sort of like sits there because you just don't know how to deal with the praise, or think, oh my, it's really, I don't know if it's just society in general, but people really seem to struggle with praise, or, hey, you did really well. I wonder why it is.
I know, and I don't know. I think I wonder. Well, but then you come from different backgrounds too. I always wonder whether that's a bit of an Australian thing too, because we don't like a tall poppy. You know, we can be pretty discouraging of the person that does really well, right? So, which is awful.
It's true.
So I wonder whether there's a little bit of that. You know, no one wants to kind of show off too much around. Oh, yeah, I am doing really well. But you know, I think we need to practice it more, and I think too we need to call it out more. So, you know, particularly, you know, if you're giving a compliment to another female business owner and she says, "Oh, you know, well, it's just this," or
just downplays it,
like, and it's almost about calling at the moment and saying, "Accept the compliment." Just say thank you. Yeah, just and almost and for us to practice, because we all do it. We downplay it. I downplay it. But you know, people do amazing things, and they deserve to be complimented. And sometimes two people are not, I think you should compliment someone every day. You know, I do, and I think
I do the same.
Because you know, and even if you see someone and you think, oh gosh, I think you're doing a really great job with that, or I was so proud of how you dealt with that particular situation.
Yeah.
Giving compliments freely, whether they take it or not, they're still going to think about it. And I think that it's something we should be doing more freely. I don't think people do it enough.
No, I agree. It's funny that you mentioned that, because my intention for the day, obviously, when I give a compliment, it's to be meaningful, not just, hey, your hair looks great, because I have to do that, you know, tick that thing off on my list today. But it always surprises me, especially like I'm the weirdo in the shops. If you know, give someone a compliment or say something, they're quite thrown off. And again, that little doggy gif comes to mind, where they're like a bit bewildered and don't quite know how to handle it. But life is tough, it's rewarding, but it's nice when someone actually does give you a compliment, or you know, it just lifts your spirit for the day. When it happens to me, I'm just like, wow, my day's made, you know, you like buzz from it.
That's right. And if you can go about your day and know that you made a difference to at least one person in your day, just from like a simple phrase, I mean, that's so easy to do. It's, you know, 2 seconds and it's done. So I think we should do that more. So yeah, it's a beautiful thing.
Definitely. And speaking of which, Lois, you always look so stylish. Any tips for the business ladies in terms of glamming it up? Every time I see you, you literally look like you've just walked out of a magazine. Like, I'm not just ticking off my task on the list today. You always look so stylish. Any tips? Do you use Pinterest for inspo? I know I go there.
No, I don't. I mean, I follow, you know, on Instagram, I follow, you know, different corporate kind of, you know, dressing and whatever. I've always felt that how you present yourself at work and in corporate environments is
so true.
It's really important, and I would much rather be overdressed. And I used to be, you know, fashion has changed now, but you know, I used to be suited and booted. I was in a suit every single day. That's just what I wore.
Wow.
And because I think particularly for me, being younger and being in executive roles, the more professionally you can present yourself, the more likely it is that someone's going to take you seriously, right? So if I was, you know, rocking about in, you know, really casual gear with no effort put in how I had presented myself, will someone take my advice as seriously than if I was in a full suit? I don't know. But then maybe that's just my bias and how I see the world. But I've always felt like that. And I think, you know, putting pride into your appearance in terms of how you present yourself to work can actually really benefit your career.
I agree.
And even just taking a little, if you're in a corporate setting, for example, if you take a little read on how people dress around you, you just level it up just slightly.
Yes.
And, you know, how you can look more professional than everybody else quite easily.
And actually stand out.
That's right. And that's no different to how you perform in the workplace too. You know, if you have a set of people around you that are performing at a particular level and you just level it up a little bit more, then you are the one that stands out, because you are better than others, because you're willing to put in a little bit more, willing to put in, you know, a bit more effort, and I think it can really help your career 100%. So but yes, I'm not sure that really answers your question, but
it does. I totally agree with you, because I've even noticed, you know, sometimes we meet a client on Zoom. So I confess I have had the mix and matches, the work party on the top or party on the bottom, office on the top or something. But it affects the confidence. Yeah.
That's right.
It actually, for me, it affects my confidence. And I've actually tried it where I'll dress like I'm actually going to a meeting, because it literally is a meeting. It's you just,
Yes.
on Zoom. And I've really noticed how I show up changes. Like if I'm in my sliders and my, possibly my
Yes.
pajama boxes with a nice blouse,
That's
it just
right.
feels different. Again, maybe it's just me, but I've really noticed a shift. And even when I go, meet clients, it really does help you. I think even from a psychological point of view, you really just level up.
Yes, absolutely. And I found that was an interesting shift with so much more work from home with COVID, and then starting the business again, having more time working from home. Obviously out and about with clients, but there are days where I have a full day at home. And I noticed the difference around, if I actually put in a little bit of effort in how I presented myself just for me, because I'm going to work, right?
Yes.
Not at all, and your mindset and how you actually approach your day is very different. So but yeah, I guess that's been a learning probably for a lot of people out of COVID, and in terms of learning to work effectively at home, and learning what works for you, and all the different techniques that keep you as focused and as motivated and as professional as you would be otherwise.
And Lois, what's next? What's next for Life at Work, or what's next for Lois?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got a beautiful business and client base now. So, that's, for me, it's a nice point to get to as a business owner. You do your initial stuff where you're, trying to get your clients on board and whatever. And we're lucky. We're in the type of industry that a lot of our work is not kind of one-off work. Sometimes we do a project and that's it. But most of the time, our client relationships will be ongoing. So we've had clients now that have been with us for 3 years, and so for me it's just about solidifying the client base, making sure that the clients that we're working with, we're giving really great service to, that they're happy with what we're providing, and that we're enriching their businesses and enriching their lives. And I think the more that you can do that for businesses, the greater your impact is, and and obviously, more work comes from that because people refer on. Our business is predominantly referral based. We don't advertise or anything. Our clients come from word of mouth typically. So, So, for me, it's just about making sure that the work that we're delivering is great. So, I've got a little team that we're working with. Everyone does a beautiful job. So, just, focusing on servicing our clients in a way that works for them. So, yeah.
And Lois, any final tips or advice for business owners or perhaps employees before we jump off?
I think for business owners, something that I think, particularly if you're starting out, I think it's really, really important to build networks around you. And, that was a real learning for me. I'm an extrovert. I like people around me.
Same.
And, and when you shift into this, entrepreneurial, solo kind of journey, particularly initially before you have staff as well, I don't know about you, but I found it very isolating. I was used to being in the midst of big corporate structures, and every day was chaos and whatever. Your day is chaos, but it's in a different way now.
It is.
And I think that it's challenging for in new business owners because, one, you don't know what you don't know. Your friends and family in corporate roles that can't understand the level of responsibility that comes with running a business, and the level of responsibility that comes with having to generate your own wage and then being responsible for the wages of others. Get it, right? So there's a lot. It's huge. It's huge. And people, probably they romanticize small business ownership, and
definitely.
They don't always recognize how hard it is. So for me, I think as business owners, we need networks around us. And that's where, for me, WA Leaders was amazing, because I suddenly was in this room of people having conversations going, oh, you worry about that too? Or you have a challenge with that? And even just to know, have people that you can call and say, I need someone to do the photos for my website. Can you recommend anybody? Or I need a new accountant. Can you recommend anybody?
Yes.
And you have people around you. So, for me, those types of networks, doing BNI with you, for example, the community that with that is key. So that's something that I would just, I think if you're in business, particularly if you're new to business, having that, front of mind and getting those support networks around you, because the chance of you failing is there for anybody running a business. And the more you can kind of buffer that and to help to create those networks, the better.
Yes, completely agree with you, Lois. Networking has had a major impact on my business and my personal growth. And you might fail, but at least if you have networks, there's someone with a towel there saying get back up and give it another go. So super important.
That's right. Absolutely. Yeah. And even for someone to say, I'm struggling with this, or this is really hard, to say, I understand.
Some stuff is, yeah.
Yeah, it is. It is hard. It can be really hard at times. So, it's a roller coaster. There's the good times and the bad times. But just even, someone that kind of gets it and can listen is super, super important and super useful, I think in longevity in business.
And Lois, where's the best place for our listeners to go to connect with you?
So I'm on LinkedIn, so you can find me on LinkedIn, and we've got a business page as well, but you can connect with me too. Otherwise, on the website our website is www.lifeatwork.com.au. We've got a contact you and info email, so you can connect with me there as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lois. What we'll do, we'll pop everything in the show notes. That way everyone has easy access. Thank you so much for your time, Lois, and for everything that you've shared. I know I've got some really great tips around HR from you. So thank you so much.
Thanks, Tracy. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.